Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. You can change the language of this podcast in the YouTube video settings. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing dumper feelings after 6 months of no contact. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing dumper feelings after 6 months of no contact. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, it can feel like a long grind. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 likely dumper feelings that your ex will have after 6 months of no contact. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is the ending of the experiment. Now let me know in the comments whether you keep track of the length of no contact. Let me know in the comments and let's see what the community thinks. And point number 1 is the ending of the experiment. And when we're talking about the likely dumper feelings after 6 months of no contact, this is the beginning of the end of the single honeymoon period. Now, the single honeymoon period is a period of time that dumpers enter post-breakup where they can live the life that they couldn't have lived within your relationship. Now, this might be as mundane as spending time at home, maybe meeting a few friends but perhaps they haven't seen in a while. Or it could be something which, if you were to hear about, would give you anxiety. Maybe they are going to parties or events, excessive socializing. Whatever your dumper is doing post-breakup, they are experimenting with a life after your relationship has ended. They're experimenting with a new life to see how they feel. Now again, as a dumpee, this might sound scary, but if you try and stay as relaxed as possible, it makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, your ex-dumper lost romantic emotional attraction for you. And when that level of attraction hit the necessary low point, they action for breakup. So at that point, they are not believing the relationship is working for them. They don't believe it is their long-term aspiration to feel happiness being with you in this connection. And hence, it makes sense that they would try and live a life that they couldn't do if they was in the relationship with you. So maybe this is because they were spending time with you and now they have more free time. Or perhaps it was because you didn't like certain things, people or activities, and now they are not with you, they can freely do them. Either way, your ex-dumper will enter this single honeymoon period, and it tends to last around 6 to 12 months. Which is why I'm describing this as the ending of the experiment, because when we've got through 6 months of no contact, your ex-dumper could already be about to leave the single honeymoon period, if not entering the final phases. So you might be wondering, well, why does it end? What does this mean? Well, if you consider anything that you or anybody else might do and try, whether it is for the first time or maybe something you are doing again after a very long time, if you try a new lifestyle repetitively, anything which felt new initially eventually feels old. Anything which was shiny and exciting starts to become boring and less interesting. Let's use the example of saying that post-breakup, your ex-dumper starts going to nightclubs. Maybe they used to before they met you, maybe they never did. And now this sounds really strange to find out that your ex is going to bars or pubs or nightclubs, whatever it may be. And you find out that they are going every single week. So certainly at the end of your relationship, they were not doing this. Maybe throughout your relationship, they never did this. But you have found out that after the breakup took place, your ex is now going to these places. Now, what happens if they go once a week for 6 months? Well, the excitement starts to wane. Maybe the first time was really exhilarating, maybe the second, third, fourth and fifth were, but eventually it is no longer new. And if it isn't new, it becomes boring. So this, in essence, is what the single honeymoon period is about. It doesn't have to be going to nightclubs, it could be anything. It is a new lifestyle choice. It is an experiment. And yet, 6 to 12 months down the line, your ex will be coming out the other side of this, where they start to ask themselves the question, why was I trying all of these things, but it didn't really seem to fulfill me? Because ultimately, you will not find that fulfillment from doing anything repetitively. Now, you might be in a position where you don't even know what your ex is doing during this time. And I'm not suggesting that you think about it too deeply and create anxiety. But whatever your ex is doing or not, maybe they are spending every night at home. Either way, 6 to 12 months down the line, they're going to start feeling somewhat bored with this new lifestyle. And that's really important to understand. Because if you are implementing my version of a no contact rule, if you are feeling the stress and the pressure of maintaining this level of no contact, it's important for you to recognize what is happening on your ex's side. And if you can understand that whatever they are doing is likely to be less interesting half a year later, well, it might give you that motivation to keep going and to keep maintaining that no contact. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like and hype this video. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is the fading effect bias kicks in. So today we're speaking about, after half a year of no contact, what would your likely dumper be feeling? Now, we've already said in point number 1, they're coming through the experiment of a single honeymoon period. And when they come out of the other side of that, one of the things they're going to be asking themselves is, was this experiment worth it? They will in essence enter a crossroads where they have to consider whether or not their new lifestyle is worth maintaining, or whether perhaps they actually miss the life they had with you. And this is why I see many dumpers reaching out to dumpees 6 to 12 months later. It's because they come out of a single honeymoon period and they then decide to reach out. But that is not the only thing which is going on. Additionally, we have a situation where the fading effect bias kicks in. Now, the fading effect bias is the principle that negative memories fade sooner over time in comparison to positive memories. Now, what this means is that if you and your ex had memories together which took place at a very similar time, some were very positive, some were very negative. Well, when the fading effect bias kicks in, this is a scenario where the bad memories that your ex will have of that time, whatever it may have been, an argument or whatnot, they will start to lose value at a quicker rate. They won't be as prominent in their mind as the positive memories which took place at a similar time. Now, this is really important because although it doesn't mean they forget what's happened, I mean, it's not as if your ex is going to forget about some bad things that may have happened in your relationship, but what it does mean is that the value they attach to those memories doesn't weigh on them as heavy, whereas the positive memories shine brighter for longer. And this tends to really step up in your ex's mind 6 months and beyond. Now, the fading effect bias can be seen with examples which have been given even before 6 months. But from the research which has been done, 6 months and beyond is where it really starts to take effect. And that is why it's an important milestone to consider. If you get to 6 months of no contact, you now know that your ex is really starting to feel the fading effect bias. It's almost as if they are wearing rose-tinted glasses. They look back on the past somewhat more favourably than perhaps it was. Because although they're not going to forget the negative things which took place, it doesn't seem to bother them as much as it once did. Whereas those good things that happened, those happy, magical, wonderful things which took place, they still shine bright. And that is what is so wonderful about the fading effect bias. Because as a dumpee, you want your ex to reflect on your relationship with positivity. And although I can't guarantee the unique specifics between you and your dumper, what I can say is that they will look back with a somewhat better view than they did at the time of a breakup. It's the principle of a fading effect bias, and it happens to everyone. It's not just a thing which happens to dumpers, it happens to everybody in every scenario. I'm sure you can think back in your own life. Let's just consider the relationship itself. Unfortunately, you have been dumped, and therefore you automatically will be putting your ex on a pedestal. But if you look back on your relationship, I'm sure that you see it in a brighter light than you actually did at the time. You might even remember thinking, well, when I was in the relationship, I didn't seem to treat my ex like the king or the queen that I would do now. Now I would do anything for them. But when I was actually with them, I didn't really feel that way. And the truth is, because the relationship you had ups and downs. Maybe there were a lot of downs. Maybe you nearly actioned the breakup. Maybe you were very close to being the dumper. But you weren't. It didn't pan out that way. You sadly was broken up with, and now you reflect backwards and think, it was wonderful, it was amazing. Yes, there were these odd moments, but wasn't brilliant, but everything in general was so fantastic. That is the fading effect bias working on you. So you now understand how it can work, but now you will understand how it can play in your favour. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is the Zeigarnik effect. Now, the Zeigarnik effect is what psychologists discovered that our brains hold on to unfinished business more than completed tasks. So let's just consider how this can actually help you as a dumpee. Your relationship was something that when you and your now former partner got together, both of you hoped it would last forever. Okay? Your ex didn't get into the relationship with the idea of breaking up with you. It is not what would have happened. You both would have come into it with the hope that it would last forever. Now, as we said at the beginning of the podcast, unfortunately, for various potential reasons, your ex lost romantic emotional attraction. And when that attraction hit the low point, they decided to break up with you. But this wasn't how the story was supposed to play out. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. This means that the relationship, in a sense, is incomplete. Now, this is really, really important because the Zeigarnik effect is the concept that our brains hold on to unfinished business more than completed tasks. Your relationship is unfinished business. It's not a completed task. In particular, if there were certain things that didn't seem to be finalized. Maybe you feel that no closure was given. And even though your ex was the one who obviously ended things, maybe deep down they also feel there was a lack of closure. Maybe you were dumped for something you didn't even do. Or maybe it was something that you did do and they didn't realize you had. However it looks, however it plays out, there is likely unfinished business between you and your ex. And when this starts to play in their mind, which the Zeigarnik effect will do around 6 months and beyond, this can play into your favor. Because when psychologists discovered that our brains hold on to this unfinished business more than completed tasks, it helps us realize that you are always going to keep popping into your ex's mind. You are never going to be leaving it forever. Sometimes people ask me, will my dumper forget me? No, you are never going to be forgotten. Even if you didn't get back together, which sadly sometimes is the way it goes. There is no 100% guaranteed way to get an ex back. But even if you don't reconnect, when your ex is 100 years old, they will still remember you. You will keep popping into their mind. And it's not just down to triggers, which we've spoke about in other podcasts. This can also be down to the Zeigarnik effect, the concept that the relationship which was supposed to last forever didn't. The concept that there was unfinished business between you and your dumper, however that played out, whatever that represents. Something, or likely lots of things, were not finalized. Now you are feeling that pain. You likely feel you didn't have closure. You are wondering about why they did this, why they did that. But guess what? Your ex will likely feel that way as well. They might not be showcasing it now. They might not even be feeling it yet. But eventually it will come and it will hit them. Now whether or not it is enough to bring them back to you, time will tell. And this will depend on the relationship you had together, the breakup, and also post-breakup. Because ultimately, everything combines to determine whether your ex is going to get to that stage of regrowing enough attraction to reach out to you. The relationship you had, if it was strong for the most part, is definitely going to be a plus. If a breakup wasn't too terrible, and I know you're probably thinking, well, yes, it was terrible, but there's terrible and there's terrible. Obviously, it would have been emotional, but if you got through that in what could be deemed as a regular kind of breakup way, then again, that is going to play in your favor. And then we have post-breakup. If you make sure you don't chase your ex, if you make sure you don't frustrate, annoy, and upset them post-breakup, then that will also play into your favor. So when things such as the Zeigarnik effect kick in, this is when your ex will look back on you in such a favorable light that they will be more likely to reach out.